Hello everyone. In today's lesson we're going to learn about comparatives and superlatives. So let's begin with comparisons of inequality. To say more than, in Spanish we use the expression más, and if it's followed by an adjective, an adverb, or a noun, than means que. Now we want to say less than, then we would say menos. And again, if it's followed by an adjective, an adverb, or a noun, it's followed by que. So let's take a look at the first example. With an adjective. Este trabajo es menos estresante que mi trabajo anterior. This job is less stressful than my previous job. So we have the word menos, then we have the adjective estresante and que. Now let's take a look at the adverb form. So, llegaste más tarde que yo. You arrived later than me. So we have the word más, the adverb tarde, and then the word que. And now with a noun. So, ahora mi empresa podría tener más empleados que el año pasado. Now my company could have more employees than last year. So we have the word más, the noun, which is empleados, followed by que. So let's continue with our comparisons of inequality. When we have a verb, then the position reverses. We have first the verb, and then this is followed by más or menos, and then que. So let's take a look at the example. Hoy hablaré más español que ayer. So today I will speak more Spanish than yesterday. So we have the verb, correct? Hablaré, followed by más, and then what we're going to compare, which is in this case Spanish, and then followed by the word que. So when we're going to compare numbers or quantity, things change a little. Instead of saying más que or menos que, we say más or menos de. So let's take a look at the example. Hay más de 10 millones de personas desempleadas en Estados Unidos. There are more than 10 million people unemployed in the US. So we have the expression más, correcto, and then de, followed by the number. Good. Now let's take a look at comparisons of equality. So comparisons of equality in English is the expression as something as. So when we have an adjective and an adverb, this is the equivalent of tan plus como. So let's take a look at an example with an adjective. Mi horario de trabajo es tan largo como el tuyo. My work schedule is as long as yours. So we have adjective, then the word tan followed by the adjective, and the word como. And let's look at an example with an adverb. El dueño trabaja tan lentamente como los empleados. The owner works as slowly as the employees. So we have the word tan followed by the adverb lentamente como. Now, in the case of comparisons of equality, when we have a noun, either singular or plural, okay, the expression then would be tanto if it's a masculine noun and singular, tanta if it's a feminine noun, singular, or tantos or tantas if it's either masculine plural or feminine plural. And then we'll have the noun followed by the word como. So let's take a look at our example. Tengo tantas reuniones como tú. So we have here the word tantas. In this case, we have a plural noun. Now remember that the word reunión, okay, ends in yon, and because it ends in yon, therefore is a feminine word. Because, or a feminine noun. Because it is a feminine plural noun, this is why we have tantas here and then followed by como. Tengo tantas reuniones como tú. I have as many meetings as you. So with verb, it's a little bit different. So when we have a verb, is the reverse position. So first comes the verb and then comes the word tanto como. So notice that when we have adjectives and adverbs, we use tan, but when we use nouns or verbs, we use tanto. So for example, uso la tarjeta de crédito tanto como tú. So we have our verb, uso, then the object that we're going to compare in this case would be la tarjeta de crédito, then followed by tanto como. Now, in Spanish, tan and tanto are not only used for comparisons of equality, they can also be used to give emphasis. So, for example, let's begin with the word tan. It would be the equivalent of so. So if I say, for instance, tus ideas son tan anticuadas, your ideas are so outdated. So here is the emphasis that we want to give to the word anticuadas. When we want to indicate so much, okay, then we use tanto. ¿Por qué te enojas tanto? Why do you get angry so much? So again, I want to emphasize enojas, so then I use tanto. And to indicate as many, okay, I use either tantos o tantas. Hemos terminado tantas veces que ya estoy cansada de esta relación. We have broken up so many times that I am tired of this relationship. So I want to emphasize the many times that I have broken up with my boyfriend or friend or whatever. So again, tantas veces, okay, tantas is as many, okay. So now let's talk about superlatives. Superlatives is to indicate the maximum comparison. So when we express things in English such as the best, the most expensive, the least. So in Spanish, usually we use the article el, la, los, or las, then followed by the noun, now followed by más or menos, adjective, and then the word de, if it is followed by a noun. So let's take a look at the example. Es la compañía más grande del país. So we have article la, compañía, noun, más, then adjective, grande, and then we have here del and then país. País is the noun, but because it is a masculine noun and is preceded by an article el, then we have to make the contraction, and that is where the del comes from. It is the biggest or the largest company in the country. But what happens when the last piece of the sentence is either a verb or a clause? So the first part is again the same, el, la, los, or las, depending on the noun. Then again, más or menos. Then an adjective, but this time we're going to use que. So let's take a look at our example. Es la compañía menos exitosa que he visto. So again, we begin with our article. We have our noun. This time we're going to use menos. Now, the adjective is exitosa or successful. And then we have our word que, because in this case, this is the verb. It is a compound verb, and we're going to be learning about this topic in our next unit. So going back, es la compañía menos exitosa que he visto means is the least successful company that I've seen. So when we have superlative constructions, the noun can be omitted. For example, if I want to say, I would like to eat at the most elegant restaurant in the neighborhood, in Spanish, I can simply say, me gustaría, would like, okay, so remember, conditional, comer en el restaurante más elegante del barrio. So just like any other verb and any other concept that we've seen, there are also irregular comparatives and superlatives. So we're going to take a look at the most common ones. So if our adjective is bueno or buena, which means good, the comparative form, mejor, better, and the superlative form would be el, la, mejor, which means best. So malo, mala, comparative form, peor, worse, and then superlative is el, la, peor, which means the worst. Now let's take a look at grande. So you know that it means big. Mayor would be bigger, and el or la mayor would be the biggest. So we use grande, okay, when we are comparing the size of objects. So our next adjective is going to be pequeño o pequeña, small, menor, smaller, y el, la menor, the smallest. So again, when we talk about sizes of objects, we use these comparisons. Pequeño, pequeña, comparative form menor, superlative form el, la menor. So let's continue with viejo, vieja, which means old. Now, mayor, older, y el, la mayor, the oldest. So don't get confused between viejo and vieja and grande. They both have comparative forms mayor and superlative forms el, la mayor. The only difference is when we say grande, we're talking about size. When we say viejo o vieja, we're talking about age. And our next adjective would be joven, which means young, and just like viejo o vieja. So then we have menor, el, la, menor. So same thing here. When we talk about joven, we're talking about age. When we talk about pequeño or pequeña, we're talking about size. Both comparatives form and superlative forms are exactly the same. So don't get confused when you want to say young or when you want to say small. So going back to our initial cartoon, Mafalda is saying, ¿y si en vez de planear tanto, voláramos un poco más alto? Basically, why plan so much? We just fly a little higher. And that's it for today.